today really was about dementia and aged care and about human rights and disability rights. So I think that what I would really like people to take away from it is to reframe how they see people with dementia and older, frail people who may need either in-home care or assisted living, and reframe them in a way that they are still whole people who need to be supported with disability strategies and support to maintain independence for as long as possible. So that's what I advocate for globally, is for human rights and disability support. I often get questions like, what did it feel like being a mum of 2 teenage boys when I was diagnosed with dementia? And I would have to say I felt pretty awful, and I felt very fearful that I wouldn't be there for maybe their 21st or them getting married or having children, and maybe I still won't be, they're still not married or got children. Often people say, why? Why human rights and dementia? What's wrong with dementia care? And I go, well, what's wrong with dementia care is that we're not getting appropriate care. We're basically being told when we get diagnosed to give up our pre-dementia life, to get our end of affairs in order, and to get acquainted with aged care services. And that is, in my opinion, a complete breach of human rights. And I know that if I'd had a stroke or a major head injury at the age of 49, as opposed to being diagnosed with dementia, I would have been given rehabilitation, speech pathology, a whole range of disability support and healthcare services to get me back to some sort of independence and, if possible, back to work. Instead, diagnosed with dementia, the whole sector told me to get my end-of-life affairs in order, to get acquainted with aged care, and to give up my pre-diagnosis life. So I really need to change that. We really need to change that. It's really imperative that we do that. And I feel a bit lucky that I was a mature age student when I was diagnosed, and at university, if you have disabilities, they've got a whole department, the disability support team, who will assess you, who will set you up with strategies to continue studying and maintain independence. So that's what they did for me. And then I started to say, well, why didn't the healthcare professionals do that for me? So through disability services at a university, I've been able to continue studying and living Kate Swaffer's life. I didn't just go home and die. Currently, pretty much around the world, governments incentivise poor care. So if you have a client in assisted living who becomes incontinent, they get more funding. The higher the level of care they need, the higher the funding they receive, the more challenging behaviours a provider can report on, the higher the funding they get. So currently governments are incentivising poor care. And I would like to see governments, and I've been having discussions with government about this, I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime, but I would like to see the exact opposite, that governments incentivise best practice. So for not having residents incontinence products, for continuing to keep residents mobile and active and maybe even engaged outside in their community, if they were incentivised, we would see big change. If we saw providers getting less money for the consequences of what I see as poorer care, they would be very motivated to make change. So I would like to see institutional care got rid of, and I'm advocating pretty loudly at the global space to get rid of institutional care, as are the people who are working on the Older Persons Convention that's in draft stage at the moment. we don't lock anybody else up. Why are we locking up people with dementia and people who need assisted living just because they're older? We only lock up criminals, surely. So we don't segregate on race or colour or any other disease now, but we segregate people with dementia. And we have to change that, because that is a complete breach of human rights. I would really love the disability sector to start really engaging in the aged care and dementia sector to support what aged care is trying to do. So a lot of good people in aged and dementia care, working with very limited funding, with very low levels of staff, with very low levels of motivation to work in. It's not very sexy as an industry, aged care and dementia, but I would like to see a cross-pollination of dementia, ageing and disability services so that we can get it right for everybody.